Hello, and welcome to this first lecture of the new section on strategizing for your area in this course on building excellence in sales management. So, in this new section, what we will do is provide you a lot more in depth understanding of strategizing for your area. We covered strategizing partly earlier in Deming's wheel and planning, but we will do a lot more detailing for your area. And in this lecture, we will talk about what detailing will we do we need to do for strategizing for your area, and part of that we will look at month-wise sales planning. What does it look like, and how can we do that? Right. So let's look at how will you strategize for area, and we have done the strategizing as you will see in the next screen. We have done this an overall sales plan developed earlier as the part of Deming's wheel in the planning part of the Deming's wheel, where we have set the goals for the sales targets, including the different kind of targets, identified enablers and barriers, selected couple of them as your strategies, and also developed time-bound action plan. But these were very, very broad and a top level helicopter view of an area. Now you need to dig deep and get inside the forests and look at that. So, what detailing do we need to do? Is the question. So let's look at what detailing do we need to do. Now, the detailing again depends on the industry you are in, and I have for you presented here broadly four types of situations you could be in. You could be in business to business selling, where you basically have a team directly reporting to you as a sales rep, who then work with your customers. So it's a very flattish organization. You have one level internal reporting, and the sales team works with the customers. So that's one type of industry, and you will see what kind of detailing do you need to do for this kind of industry as we go forward. Little more complex organization is a fast moving consumer durables, FMCD, fast moving consumer durable industry, and you could be an area sales manager, ASM for short. And here you would obviously have a sales rep reporting to you, and the sales rep would oversee the dealers. So you would have dealers. You don't deal with customers directly. You work through a distribution channel of dealers. Let's say washing machines. So there will be washing machines in the city that you are in the area that you are responsible for, and they would be supplying to customers. And your sales field force, your team, your sales reps would go and work with these dealers in making things happen in terms of getting your targets. The little more complex, further complexity comes in fast moving consumer good industry, FMCG industry. And there, in a smaller FMCG area, you might have 8, 10, 5, 7 sales reps directly reporting to you who would then work. So there is a distribution channel is longish there. So there are distributors, then there are what is called retailers and wholesalers, and then there are customers. And here the sales teams directly handles the distributors and also goes and visits the retailers. But they don't really work with customers as much in the sense practically none. The even more complex organization is an FMCG, in which you are a largish area. You have maybe 20, 15, 16 sales reps. And since the numbers of sales reps are large, you might have another layer added, all called sales officer. So if typically, for example, if you have 16 reps who see distributors, oversee distributors, develop the business with the retailers to supply to customers, you might have two sales officers, the team divided equally into 8, and you will oversee the two sales officers or three sales officers as the case may be. So what detailing do you need to do depends on what kind of organization are you belonging to and the industry you're belonging to. Let's look at how does it impact you. So as you see here, if we classify the industry into three broad categories, B2B, FMCD, and FMCG, there are certain things that you will need to do across the three types of industry. Sales planning. You will need to plan monthly sales. You will need to manage the territories, here manage their sales reps and their territories, make sure that they're performing well, they're contributing, and they're doing the right things and they're in the right places. Then there is something called a network development. And B2B, you really don't have a network. You don't have a network. You supply directly from the factory company to your customers, large orders, either part shipments or full shipments. And whereas in FMCD and FMCG, you have one layer or two layer network that you need to keep developing to supply and service your customers, right? Sales promotion is a common thing. You may have a sales promotion more important in FMCG, FMCD, and maybe somewhere important in in B2B to get more sales from your customers. Similarly, logistics and distribution is a thing that goes across all three industry. Most complex in FMCG industry because of the network involved, and somewhat there in B2B where you would have to coordinate with the factory to get the stocks delivered to your customers. New product launches for the channel is primarily FMCD and FMCG. You may have some work that you will do with launching a new product to customer, but you really don't launch new products to your customers. You launch to the channel, which is the dealers and distributors and retailers. Then there's a very peculiar thing in the FMCD industry is that since the value of goods is large, and if you're talking of cars, it could be a million rupees, and if it is a million rupees, that customers may need financing. So one of the tasks that the dealers and the company does in terms of strategy is to help customers finance at the time of purchase, and that is one particular work that you and your team will have to look at doing it. And how do you do that is a part of your strategy. And there is a common thing of market research and competitive intelligence across all three categories of business. Right, so having looked at what all you need to do, let's look at the first thing of how do you do sales planning across all three businesses. Any thoughts? How would you go about doing sales planning? So the sales planning, the output would look like this. First, there are two levels. The first level is at an area level where the broad sales that you had decided for the year, you will need to set month by month plans. Now, these months could be an overall sales value, or it could be some specific products also. So, depending on your organization. And the plan would normally look like this in terms of you would have a last year sales, and then you would have an impact of what would you do to build new initiatives. NI1, NI standing for new initiatives, NI1, NI2, etc., etc. And you add them up to the last year's sales to determine what will be your monthly sales. So that's how your monthly sales plan by the area will look like. Now the question is, how do you make this monthly sales plan? So you start obviously with the last year sale. You first understand what happened last year, this every month, what drove the sales of that month, and there you will discuss opportunities and possibly some risk here. If last year, this particular month was a very heavily promoted month, and you were lucky to get some businesses, you will have to then understand that your luck may not continue to ride this year and accordingly plan what you can do this year. So then from your sales strategy, you need to identify those NI1 to NI10 that you can do, or 12 that you can do in each month, and their likely impact in terms of additional sales in that particular month you can get. And it's a judgment call. Past history, past work, the consultation with your superiors, with your colleagues, with your team helps. And that's what you would do here. But it's entirely a judgment thing. Then what you do is you consolidate the impact of all these initiatives and see what is your confidence level. Is it making sense? Are you comfortable that if you do all these initiatives, there's a 95% chance or 98% chance that you will achieve your goals? And if the confidence is lower, you may like to look at adding more initiatives and then impacting their impact and seeing now are you more comfortable. So it's a bit iterative process, and as you will present to your superiors, they will also ask the questions, and that will also help you refine these plans. The second part is also to make sure that these month-wise plans are also planned at the rep level, because unless you have to remember in sales management, unless your team achieves their goals, you can't do a thing. So you need to have their plans by month for each of the reps. T1, T2, T3 standing for the territories, 1, 2, for example, 12 territories, and you need to have them planned. You need to consolidate them, as we were saying, and see whether that matches up with your requirement. If not, then you go back and ask them to plan better and do something more, or go back and maybe reduce your plan. So how do you make this rep wise plan? So what you start with is you brief the team, you gather the team in one place, and you brief them on your overall strategy for the area and your sales plan requirement for the territory. What is it that you would like from them? What kind of growth are you looking for individually? What are the support that you can give them? And what are the requirements from you as an area? Then what you do is you ask them to prepare a plan in a common format similar to the area plan and submit it. And you again then you use the same format of asking for last year's sales, what initiatives you would do, they would take, and how, and hence how would they look at. And that gives you a good granularity of what they can do and why they can do that. The why is very important. Then once you have these plans submitted, each sheet you consolidate them and compare with your plans and your requirements. And once if they tally and check with your requirements in terms of attainability and being able to support your area plans, then you are fine. If not, you go back and tell them individually or collectively to refine the plans in certain area. And if for some reason their planning is still short of what your requirement is, you may need to go back and revise your plans, because your plans and team's plans needs to be aligned. So what do we do next? So in the next, we will look at the second part of detailing that you need to do in terms of how can you manage these reps or their territories through them. And this is the common thing that goes across all three categories of businesses: B2B, FMCD, and FMCG. And that's what we will take a look at in the next module. So thank you so much for watching this first lecture on strategizing for your area in detail. I hope you are continuing to learn something new, continuing to enjoy, and I look forward to see you again in the next lecture.